Custer County Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. Let the record show today is March the 6th. It is 9 o'clock a.m. I wonder if council, you would, we're kind of making this circle, if you would lead us into Pledge of Allegiance, sir.
I was hoping you'd ask.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think that's the best it's ever been said.
You know, I do too.
That was a very good start,
I was thinking
Clint.
of that.
How much did you charge for that?
Somebody said to me yesterday, I don't think it was Meredith, somebody that was here.
I didn't say anything.
Okay. Said, very much appreciate when the Pledge of Allegiance is said at the county commissioners meeting, you know they're open for business. So I thought that was cool. Would ask everybody to silence their cell phones if you have not. Madam Clerk to the board, would you conduct the roll call, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Camden.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Yeah.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Amendments, audience introduction. Mr. Legree, if you'd care to start, please.
Lynn Legree, Airport.
Dale Mullen, Economic Development.
Charles Bogle, Economic Development, rural Custer County.
Jackie Bubis, Sentinel.
Thank you. Meredith Nichols.
Meredith Nichols, Emergency Manager for Custer County.
Amendments to the agenda, gentlemen.
Negative.
The only one I have, I would move that we delete planning and zoning from the staff reports. Miss Jackie is out of town.
It's not on here.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I did it wrong.
Oh, it's not on yours? Oh, then they already did. Okay, sorry. Then I would draw my motion. I didn't realize that.
Second to withdraw.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so she,
What if we disagreed with that?
Kara took it off. And I wasn't aware of that, so,
She was on top of it.
yeah.
She was.
And to Jay's point, when she sends out new agendas, if I've got notes already on my agenda, I just transfer the new stuff. I don't save the new agenda because then I lose all my notes. So
And that is why your agenda is not up to date.
that's correct, because I missed that. So can get out of that business. I don't believe we have any minutes to approve today. Commissioner items. Commissioner Prince, would you like to begin?
I'd love to tell you how busy I was between yesterday and today. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't do a thing countywide.
Wow.
I didn't want to make some up, I will.
No, but Commissioner Kanda, I bet will.
I won't make anything up. I'll bet you'll do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
No.
I will not make anything up, but I do have an item, and that is I want to publicly apologize for my lack of self-control yesterday. I want to apologize to my fellow commissioners, I'm sorry, that my emotions ran amok. I also want to apologize to the Tourism Board and also to Ann Barthrop and her committee that did the work on the RFP. So, had a hard time sleeping last night. I vowed to myself that sometimes an apology is not enough. And so I've said that to other people, and I believe it with myself, that a change in behavior needs to follow an apology to make it worthwhile. So that's all I have.
I do have a couple things.
Go ahead.
Just real quick. I did talk to Caitlin at the state for the airport AWAS grant. And I mentioned yesterday that if we get the package in time, or sooner the better, the sooner we can start. And it looks like 1st of May would be a good start date. Could be a goal. And I'll talk with Lynn after the meeting today and bring the whole airport board up to speed. And the other item is I did have a talk. I was glad to see that Charles and Dale are here. I did talk with Mark Carmel, and you all did receive, I hope, the update on that. So it looks like we're going strong. And I appreciate you all meeting with Carmel, and we'll go from there. And we got some items here we'll discuss when we get to Charles and Dale. All right.
Anything else, gentlemen? Commissioner Prince?
Yeah, I just want to add that Tuesday at 1 o'clock, I'm meeting with the, I'm sorry, it's not there. It is, yeah, Tuesday at 1 o'clock, I'm meeting with the ambulance folks. Yeah, as you know, Janie has, I suspect you know that Janie has withdrawn from that committee.
Did not know that, no.
Yes, Tom Shepard now will be the leader of that. So there are some changes going on over there. I had volunteered to be the representative on that group, but I don't need to be the sole one if either of you are willing or would like to come. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday at the ambulance barn.
Okay. The 10th
That is correct, sir.
at 1 o'clock.
That's that new committee that was just formed,
Correct.
and so Janny's not on it, but somebody else is.
Correct. Janie has decided not to be the chairperson, and Tom Shepard will be.
Interesting. Thank you, sir. Anything else, gentlemen?
Not that won't be covered as we go along here. If we get to Lynn, pretty big crowd.
Upper Ark report, I have nothing. Attorney items?
I just want to compliment Road and Bridge for the job they did on County Road 255 Oak Creek grade in 4 Mile. That was almost impassable. It was so bad there. And they had somebody working yesterday, and now it's like a superhighway down there. You can go fast.
And I will echo that because I got several thank yous in the email, which is unusual. But they even included a picture of how great.
Yeah.
Remember the road, the slope going
We all
down.
got that, and I was thinking that it's really good to tell the crew over there
Yeah.
that the folks are
Forwarded.
happy,
Forwarded it to Gary.
primarily happy.
Talked
I mean, everybody's
Will
got
be.
some complaint, but
Yep.
overall they're doing a good job.
They are.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our administrative assistant is out today. Public comment, if you have anything to talk about that's not on the agenda, now would be the time to do that. Hearing none, we will move on. Staff report, Mr. Legree for the airport. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, y'all. Good morning.
How are you, sir, again?
Hey, Lynn, you got through breakfast all right.
We did. What's this?
Lean forward, push
Recording
the button.
device.
It doesn't have to be too high, so you reach up, just make it comfortable.
Oh,
For the public.
all right. This will be short and sweet because there wasn't a lot happen at the airport in February, so weather being not conducive to flying much, so.
Okay.
We did have our meeting, and one of the big things we think we hopefully did was change our meeting time to 5:30, so that maybe we can get some folks to come that are working.
Is that all of them or just the next one?
Yeah, our Thursday, the third Thursday at 5:30.
So it's going to be that date from now on.
Yeah,
Or that time.
That time.
Sorry. Yeah.
That was a good meeting, too. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think
So hopefully we
it'll
get
be all
more.
right. We'll see if somebody else comes that can't come at 10.
So your next meeting's on the 20th then? Sorry, on the 19th? Third Thursday?
Third Thursday at 5:30. I don't know what that is. And then we kind of picked a preliminary date for the fly-in of August 15th. And we'll see as we continue to plan that that stays. We're anxious for you guys to come and have your meeting up there.
Your flying's August 13th?
15.
Saturday the 15th. And then we did, some guys wanted to have another little, like a subcommittee for planning hangars and the new taxi lanes so that it has to come through the airport board before it goes to Jackie to get approval of the hangars. So maybe we can tighten up some of that stuff that's been happening with hangar construction not being what we wanted it to be.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Committee.
Yeah. So it will be signed by them when they go to get their building permit with Jackie. The plans will have been pre-approved by us. So.
Great.
Yeah. And that's all. That's about
okay.
all I got, guys.
So your May, hosting the commissioners in May,
Correct.
do we need to help offset the cost of a meal function or anything else for that meeting? Are you guys okay with
I
that?
think we're okay. We'll holler if we decide to do ribeyes instead of hamburgers.
Perfect.
I was hoping for a ribeye.
All right. So,
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
yeah, we are too.
I think that's the 20th of May.
21st.
21st,
August
Commissioner meeting?
20th. We're doing it on
May.
Wednesday or on
Are you
Thursday?
in May?
May. Airport board, third Thursday.
Oh, yeah, but our BOCC meeting is
Oh, I
that day.
apologize.
That's okay. No,
Yeah.
that's all right. Yep.
So we got a double whammy out there.
Yeah.
Days in a row.
Hello.
Yeah. I think I worked that last year
Oh.
too, that same way.
Okay.
So,
Good. And just for the commissioners' information, Stephanie Wybara came by when she got to work last evening and asked me if I would ask the airport if they could look at purchasing a new vacuum cleaner for the airport out there. So I mentioned that when I had coffee with Lynn this morning. Said he would take that to his board.
yeah.
So
No,
if
See
you would
no
let me
issue
know
with
if
that.
and when we get
Did
to
she-
go ahead on that, I'll have Kara order it for
Okay.
you.
No,
So,
that was my question.
yeah.
Did you want us to go get
No,
it? Or?
we can do it. We've ordered 2 this year
Okay.
for the courthouse, so she can, and she said she would be completely satisfied to have one just like the one she had
Okay.
here. So,
One that works?
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So
Right.
if you give me the go ahead on that, then I'll let Kara know. Or you
I-
can just send Kara an email too, either one. doesn't
I
matter.
don't see an issue with that at all. So,
I think you ought to just go order it. I
Yeah,
can't imagine
I
your
think-
board's going to say don't order a vacuum
exactly.
cleaner.
Yeah.
So, if you,
Well, if that's okay, then yeah, I know she's frustrated.
Yeah.
She goes out next week, so
right.
Gotta have the tools to do your job.
Absolutely.
if by consent we're all okay with that, then
She,
I'll just
yeah.
leave Kara a note and we'll move on.
Kara's going to buy it, or who's going to purchase it?
Kara will order it.
Kara will order it, but
Of
Right.
their
And then it
budget.
come out of our
right,
budget. Right.
okay, and it'll reside out there, right?
Yep.
That's what I.
Yeah.
So then the other ones we'll just dispose of?
I would guess, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Bobby will recycle it if you like.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and a quick note for you, Lynn. I
Okay.
did talk to Christy Doon about the Ready Grant. It's not a Ready Grant. It's sort of a Ready Grant. And I'll go over that with you. It's due the 1st of April, so we'll have
Wow.
to get our guys
Okay.
wired up.
Ready?
Ready. Well, it's a it's a resource impact grant. They've got a $20 million pot, amazingly enough, but last year they had $36 million worth of requests, so it's competitive. And we'll put in both items, the ramp and the fuel, to see if we can get it. Lot 6 wants to push down the path for less cost as best they can, and so we're putting together a little note to him to let him know that's what we're going to do.
Okay, so on that, we need to stay with Gary to make sure we get our taxi lanes bladed in and
Yeah.
prepped, whether Lot 6 is going to participate.
Well, the
And
taxi
be
lanes
ready.
have to be done anyway.
Correct.
That was
That's what
aside from that. Yeah.
but we were going to try to coordinate.
And Gary told me he was going to be out there as soon as and you need to tell him, or Bob does, that as soon as the ground looks like it's able to be chewed up, so that when they do cut it, it's not making big chunks.
Right.
With the blade.
Yeah.
And Gary's ready to do it.
Is he?
You just
Okay.
need to talk to him.
Okay, we'll do it.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Okay.
Because it sounds like OT6 is going to not be ready when we would be.
No, it's right. You need to just.
So, we
It's
need to go
irres-
ahead.
right now. We know that the grant won't be available if we are awarded
Right.
until August.
Yeah.
Sometime.
So,
So the schedule is going to slip, and that's what we'll put in our note to David Watts, that you've got to understand it's not going to happen because
this summer.
it probably won't.
Right.
So that's
And the taxiways has nothing to do with the grant that you're
That's
speaking
correct.
of,
No.
correct?
Right.
that's the dirt behind where the parking lot is.
We were just going to try to coordinate dirt moving here and there with them. And pavement.
Would have been nice if we could have, as they're cutting the foundation for the ramp, they could have bladed it. But
Right.
anyway,
We'll go ahead.
and I'll forward you the note.
Okay.
Assuming fuel sales will way down since
Yeah.
nobody's flying.
Yeah. Mr. Jolly said he didn't even go pull up any numbers. He's in Texas now, but he said,
It's fine.
Last I heard, it was the gas to check out the pump was like a couple gallons.
exactly. I think that's about all maybe that went through it. There was a little more
No,
than
it
that.
was 15 or more, a little
Right.
more.
All right, sir. Well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. How'd your meeting go this morning? Okay.
But, oh, yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yep. We'll
Thanks,
talk
Lane.
later.
Yeah.
Yep. See you, Dave.
Can you hand me a yellow highlighter?
Here I've got one right
You got one over
here.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Next up is the Office of Emergency Management report. Good morning, Ms. Meredith.
Good morning. How is everyone?
I can make a quick
Hope everyone washed their hands.
That was a nice note at midnight.
It wasn't at midnight.
But it was a nice note.
Commissioner Prince, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just would like to say to you, thank you. I had an emergency, and the Office of Emergency Management came in and solved the issue for me.
Anytime.
I
Coffee's very
messed up
important.
the coffee
Coffee isn't.
completely, and you really did it, and I sincerely appreciate that. That's not part of your job description. It was just a wonderfully nice thing you did.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to say you had a coughing.
I know. I was
I
like,
thought that's what-
I'm gonna go wash
Took
my
care
hands.
of it, yeah. We have a very well-rounded OEM, wouldn't you say? Absolutely.
Lots
Good
of
morning,
stuff.
ma'am. How
Good
are
morning.
you?
I'm doing well.
Very blessed.
Busy times?
Yes,
huh?
very busy.
Pull up your report real quick.
Yeah. So, if you have any questions on the report, you can go through those, and I can kind of update you on the next
Okay.
few things.
I think I even have you. Do I have your letter about.
Yeah, they came kind of together. I can shoot it to you if you
If you
need.
wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it.
Do that real quick.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
Jay,
I asked you this morning,
looks
what
like
can I tell
this,
you?
Jay.
Well, I've been there. It's frustrating when you can't find something that you think you've got.
Yeah, I probably pulled up the coronavirus update you gave us. And wasn't thinking about the report itself.
Gotcha.
Totally me, not you.
Well, it's on its way now, sir.
Thank you very much.
While we wait, here's my timesheet for APG grant.
Have you added another 20 minutes with this meeting?
That'll be the next month.
I'm having my best day, apparently. There it is. Thank you. I have it now. I appreciate it. Thank you for sending it. Thank you for sending it. You're sending it to us, and I was sending it to you.
Perfect.
Got it.
Gentlemen, did you get an opportunity to look at that timesheet? And do you think we need to vote on this timesheet or not? That would be highly unusual
why
if we
would we?
did, but
It's just routine.
you just submit these to Donna,
Yeah.
right? So.
Well, to my EMPG grant. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a new requirement for this year, for every month.
So that being said, she's asking for a signature from the commissioners on this timesheet. New requirement for the EMPG grant, you said?
Correct.
You did a motion
We
Last
did.
last month there was a
There
motion.
was.
to approve
I move we approve the
Timesheet.
timesheets for Aaliyah.
We said we
Second.
would do it.
Been moved and seconded to
Is that what we did?
No, to approve.
approve the timesheet for February for Meredith. Discussion? 177 hours.
And overtime for cleanup.
Yeah.
In the back. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
If no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
We said we would do it whatever.
Thank you. If there's not any questions, I can go forward and what's
Yeah, I
upcoming.
don't think I have any.
Yeah, I don't have any either.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One thing that's not on there, I'm going to be reviewing the MOUs for the county that we have in place and making sure that they're up to date and squared away before fire season happens. And within those MOUs, we have MOUs for evacuation centers, staging areas, any type of in all that whole arena. So,
Mutual aid agreements?
yeah.
With fire or no?
So I'm gonna highly suggest every agency looks at their MOUs, but I have no sway in that. But the MOUs that we have as a county for evacuation centers, for sheltering locations, stuff like that, that I can have some sway in. So, yeah. And then I highlighted 2 different upcoming events that you guys should be interested in, hopefully. The CES meeting, March 17th at 2 o'clock. We're going to be going over the alert and warning plan. That has to be updated due to our switch over to FreeCom and our new emergency notification system. So, if you guys could be there, and
Yep.
that'd be very helpful at the Search and Rescue Building. And then March 18th, we're doing a reducing wildfire risk workshop in Morfino County for the whole South region. I think 2 years ago, we had one regarding, the title was Before the Fire, Dennis Page from the U.S. Forest Service, and we have a few different partners working into that. It's going to be the type of that type of layout again.
We have a commissioner meeting that day in Wetmore. I think I
Okay.
sent you an email about that,
Okay.
but so I don't believe we'll be able to
No
attend.
worries. I can pass on all the information for sure. And then I have a meeting with Sky Ranch Horn Creek regarding their evacuation plan and getting that squared away and helping them, and also for us just knowing what their plan is so that we can be more prepared in helping them with that. And yeah, those are the main ones. Oh, next week I do have the first week of the academy.
Oh,
So I'll be gone Tuesday through Thursday in Centennial. So
ESF 5.
so that's that South Region meeting that we have as and so the South Region counties: Pueblo, Morfino, Los Animas, Fremont, and Custer County. We get together each month as emergency managers and talk through different topics and things like that. So it'll be in Custer. If you guys want to attend, you're more than welcome. Just to see what happens in those meetings. If you can't stay the whole time, that's okay too. Yeah.
That's
And-
emergency support meeting on
Yeah.
26th.
Yeah. And 5 is pertaining to.
Emergency management.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we talked a little yesterday about encouraging people to switch over to Everbridge.
Right. Yeah, so we actually had a really good, for that first week, we had 700 people sign up online, which was really great.
Sweet.
We have a few more trickling in, especially the part-time homeowners are getting the messages, and so they're still emailing or calling to help within that. So that's been really good. The system already uploaded the landlines that we have in the system, so we have about 2,000 plus phone numbers in the system, so that's really good. And so we'll keep pushing that out throughout the county. Healthcare, the health fair, we'll be having a booth there on it, and all the different events and stuff that we're having around the county. So, yeah. We can talk about the COVID-19 response now, or we can wait until public health's staff report.
We can do public health staff report right now also.
Whatever one.
Let's co-team it during public health.
Okay.
You got time to stay?
Yeah, of course. Sounds good. I think that's really it. It's a lot balancing all of the daily things, and then also now with supporting public health. So it's going to be a busy couple weeks for sure, months, whatever it turns into. So.
Well, I certainly want to applaud Meredith's efforts on this whole COVID-19 thing. I mean, as well as public health, both of those organizations are on top of it. I was part and parcel to an email string yesterday between several folks, and I indicated to Meredith this morning in an email, certainly she represented a voice of reason and represented the county very well. I was proud to be able to say to myself that that's our manager for OEM. So
I appreciate
you did
that.
a great
Thank you.
job, and
Don't. It's crooked.
yeah, it's got coffee stains on it.
Spot would that be?
So
I appreciate
yeah,
that.
just
Thank
really
you.
wanted to congratulate you on that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, anything else, gentlemen, for Meredith, before we move on to public health, and then maybe during public health we can...
Sure. Definitely.
If I may, there's a gentleman in town who's been sending me emails about he has the solution to the coronavirus.
I think they've spoken
Sounds
to
familiar.
him. Yes.
He wrote to me, and I just want to give you a heads up. I invited him to the meeting Monday.
Okay.
Said,
Oh, also on that, the school district. So I'm the superintendent and the principal will be attending that as well.
wonderful.
So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So I just want to give you a
Okay.
heads up that I invited
Okay.
him.
Thank you. Appreciate the heads up.
I don't mean a negative in any
Oh, no.
Other than just say there's another gentleman who feels he has some input into
Great.
this, and I've always felt two heads are better than one.
Oh, I am all for a whole community approach in whatever response or all hazard event it is, for sure. So,
Thank you.
Who else has been invited to that workshop?
as of just for us, the school district, they emailed us asking about meeting with them Monday at 9.
Oh.
And so I figured it would just be better for them to hear the county's response, and then we can have an offline conversation with them and helping in their efforts for
Public health.
thresholds.
Planning
Yeah.
on being there as well. So OEM, the school, and public health. Okay.
On the 18th.
the
Workshop for the night.
Monday,
The 9th.
the 9th?
How did I miss that?
We voted on it yesterday.
Yeah.
9 o'clock on.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right. I've got that. Trying to keep your workshop straight.
I know there's a lot. I can send email reminders for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am.
Of course.
Appreciate that. Again, if you have time to stay for a few
Oh, for sure, I will.
minutes, we'll move on to public health. Thank you
Appreciate it.
for coming in. Glad you're feeling better.
Me too.
Thanks.
Stop writing.
Public health.
Next victim.
Next staff report.
Great. I'm not going to shake your hand because I've been sick all week and I don't want you to have my cooties.
Okay, welcome.
I'm better
Thank you.
now, but yeah.
You're better but contagious.
I'm
is
better,
that-
but I don't want to take any chances.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not COVID-19.
If you don't have a good feel for that, we're in trouble, huh?
Right.
But
So let's talk about everything but COVID-19 to
Okay.
start with. So We are still planning to do the health fair at this point, scheduled for April 4th. We are just putting out a thing today. Right now, the ladies at the office are working on it, saying we're closely following the COVID-19, and essentially, if we get a case in Custer County, we'll probably cancel the health fair. Otherwise, we're going to go forward as planned.
It just seems like an oxymoron because of a health concern.
Right.
Cancel a health fair. It's appropriate, and I appreciate you doing that. It just seems like an oxymoron. I should keep my mouth shut.
Well, and the biggest thing we talked about too is that the majority of the people who come to the health fair in this community are the at-risk older adults, and so
It's wise. I'm not arguing your decision. I'm just.
it
it's kind of
is
funny.
it is
Ironic, isn't it?
Ironic, not funny.
very
There's nothing
ironic,
funny
yes.
about any of it.
So, we're still teaching CPR now. Cindy's able to teach CPR as well, so that's going to be a tremendous help. Let's see what else do I have on here. Cindy and I went to the EPR to the OEM conference in Loveland last week. It was amazing. We got some really great ideas for some emergency plans. On that note, Cindy has put together like an emergency preparedness booklet that is it's awesome. It has a ton of information about where to go if this happens, what to do if this happens, how to be prepared. There's like a medication list in there, how to keep things prepared in case you have to stay home for 2 weeks. It's perfect timing, and it's going to print probably this weekend, so we should have it midweek next week, I'm hoping. So those will be distributed to different businesses throughout the community. They'll be, of course, in our office, so we'll be, we can hand them out. And there's like one for businesses, one for individuals, and one for like, I can't remember, there's 3 different versions of it. But so that we cover the whole gamut of what our community is. So VSO will have some there. So I think that's all that I really have to talk about, unless you guys have questions about my report. Otherwise, before we go into COVID-19.
I just wanted, if you don't mind, mentioning MRC, where we're headed, what the turnover there has been. I mean, obviously Ted's out, and so could you speak to that?
Sure. So Ted has resigned as the coordinator, and luckily because we have Cindy, we're just going to kind of put her in that position as coordinator, director, and she's going to work closely with Gail Frickle on that position. Primarily the coordinator works with the director anyways to do, events such as like trainings, and then if we actually have to open up a site for, what's the word?
EOC?
Well, no, not an EOC, but like a
DAC shelter.
shelter, thank you. Then that person really coordinates that information and tells people where to go, how to organize it so that we have no lost people, that kind of stuff. So Cindy is working really hard to recruit. In fact, just this week she recruited a couple more people to our MRC. And so she really has her fingers on the pulse of that. So I'm going to just sort of delegate that out to her and let her run with it.
Okay, and then the last item on your report, I'm assuming was maybe a typo.
Seriously?
Well, I don't want to sit here and know that there's a no-notice drill.
There was a no notice drill.
Okay, so then
That
let
is
me...
actually not a
then-
typo.
okay.
For once,
So if that is not a typo,
Commissioner Flower did not find a typo in my report.
could you explain what a regional no-notice drill is?
Yes.
I have no idea
So-
what that means.
So, as in a real event, we would not get a notice that we're having a bomb threat at Parkview and Pueblo. So, like a week or 2 weeks ahead of time.
Oh,
So that's what we mean by no notice.
oh,
So typically when we do like a big drill throughout the region, it'll be like, we're gonna do a drill on March 13th. And we put that
Right.
information out in January.
Okay.
So everybody can have their calendars clear, so everybody can play and blah, blah, blah. It's all nice and tidy. But in reality, the situation of this drill was a bomb threat at Parkview. We're not going to know in January that in March there's going to be a bomb threat. So there was low to no notice. All the members of the Healthcare Coalition in the South region knew that in the beginning of March there would be a drill. That's all they knew. They didn't know the day, the scenario, anything. So that's what that means.
Got it.
And it was conducted. It was very successful. We have a new coordinator for the Healthcare Coalition for the South region. She did a fantastic job. So a lot of plans came out of that, and we drilled a similar thing to this about 2 years ago in the South region, and it was a disaster. The Parkview Medical Center, the Healthcare Coalition, we focused on the wrong things, and we learned that through that drill. So now, through this drill, we learned that our plans are working, that we have a better plan, that we're on the right track. So
That's why drills work.
yeah, that's why we do drills. So.
Then I think there was a typo in your jail nursing report. Is it Hoon or June? I'm not sure.
He's not going to give up.
It's June, sir.
However, I move that we change June to Hoon, and she's correct then.
And how would the spelling be? J-U-N-E?
However she spelled it is the way I spell it.
And that's how she spelled it, so,
Perfect.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about COVID-19.
Hey, before you do that,
Yes.
I understand that you're working with Brian Corrigan, the wizard, and you and Cindy both. It sounds like it's been a big help. So,
It has had
Appreciate
some
it.
great ideas.
Good.
So yeah, we've
you got a
incorporated.
lot of experience. So,
Yeah, we've incorporated some of that into our plans.
yeah,
So
good.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so COVID-19. I'd like to start by saying, kind of mirroring what Mr. Flowers said earlier. We have amazing plans, and it's thanks to Meredith. Our OEM is on the ball. I can't even tell you how excited I am to have her on board.
She says,
with
"Who,
this.
me?"
Yeah. So, where should we start? So we have 2 cases presumptively in Colorado.
Not in Custer County.
Right.
I saw that on Facebook.
And so
I want
let's-
everyone to know.
And presumptively
Not
means
just-
exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
So
Let's
presumptively means that the state CDPHE lab tested it, found it as positive. Because it's such a novel new thing, they're verifying with the CDC that it's an actual positive case. Okay, so that's just kind of a Superman cape so that they are for sure 100% that it's actually COVID-19. Regardless, they're treating it as it is a positive case. The people who have been tested are in quarantine. There's concern because the one individual from Summit County was in several different homes and ski resorts and blah blah blah. He came to Colorado on a plane. He's not actually from Colorado.
From where though? In the States or
In the States, yeah. But he
be.
had been in
Maybe.
Italy
also?
before, and his travel partner was diagnosed positive with COVID-19.
But he
So-
followed all the protocols.
He
Whenever
did.
he was worried about possibly having a diagnosis, so that was.
He went while he was traveling, while he was in the resorts, while he was essentially out in public and all these other places, he was asymptomatic. At this time, they're telling us that if you're asymptomatic, you're not contagious. You're only contagious when you have a cough and a sneeze and you're spewing it all over.
So I watched the Summit County press conference last night, and all the media was asking all these questions like, do you know where the Airbnb or the rental he was at, things like that.
Yeah.
It was kind of frustrating because they didn't answer how I would answer it. Is services, that virus only lasts on surfaces for
2 hours.
4
minimum.
hours top, something like
3.
3.
Okay, so this is what the CDC and the World Health Organization says, that it can be essentially 3 to 12 hours. 12 hours being the very outside, and this COVID-19 only survives in certain temperatures, and the lowest temperature is 80 degrees.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So the likelihood
They're in a
Of it
doormat.
being on a
On a
surface,
surface.
it needs to have a host.
Yeah. And immediate, well, okay, I'm not, there's always outliers in every situation.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying definitively that's not the right course here, but so them being concerned about it being in a rental and people coming to that rental, things like that's not a concern. At that point, to me, I don't see that as a problem. So
No, and it was cleaned.
Exactly.
I mean, every B&B or should be cleaned,
cleaned before
in
there's
between.
a next person. So, anyways, that's kind of off the subject, but I just wanted to answer how I would have answered it if I would have gotten that question. So, looking forward, if we can kind of go to that direction with this conversation now, we talked last night, I'd like to start a activation of our EOC for a staff level. Basically, it's what we've been doing this week. We just haven't named it that, so that we can finalize our response, have those conversations that we need, and then this weekend go to a standby activation, so that we're still monitoring the situation, still looking at this SIT reports coming from the state, coming from CDC, things like that. And then Monday start again on that staff activation, just to make sure that we have everything working forward.
What's that mean, staff activation?
So there's levels of an EOC activation, Emergency Operations Center activation. And so part of that is one's a standby, where you're just monitoring the situation, being diligent in looking at the SIT reports coming in from different areas, and then coordinating with public health in that. Staff activation was you're in the room working towards together, but just the people that would be responding to this event, and that would be public health, emergency management, and then talking to the clinic in conversations, talking to EMS in conversations, all the first responders, making sure that we're on the same page, have the right protocol in place as a county and medical facilities, things like that. And we're lucky we only have a clinic. We don't have hospitals to deal with in the county right now, so that's really nice. We don't have to do a huge activation in that. If we did have more healthcare facilities in the county, then there'd be a bigger activation of the EOC.
Bigger team.
Yeah, there's no
More
need for
people
that.
involved, yeah.
Yeah, so EOCs around the state are doing that just as a standby or staff activation because there are 2 positive cases in Colorado, so that we can be working towards instead of reacting. We're going to start looking forward.
So we also want you to be aware that there will be more cases,
Yeah.
just because we're testing more cases.
Right.
So there will be more. The fatality rate, I believe, and this is my opinion based on the way the flu and other diseases have gone, the mortality rate is going to go down because more cases will be tested, so that ratio is going to separate even more. The fatality rate at this point, the youngest person that has died is 50, and he was an end-stage COPD before he contracted the virus. So everyone who has died already has a pre-existing condition that's making them more compromised before they even get it. Same thing as the flu, same thing as any other virus or disease. And that's partially why we're trying to help the media to not create a panic, because the statistics show that yes, it's growing. Yes, it's a concern. We absolutely want the community to be aware and understand. Wash your hands, keep your hands away from your face, stay home if you're sick. But this isn't Ebola where everybody who catches it dies.
Well, the statistic I heard this morning was common flu. You're going to have 20 million or 50 million are infected this year, and it's a mild flu season. And then they're like
18,000 people
18,000
across the country have died of the flu this
that's right.
flu season.
And so
now, keeping in
you gotta
mind
keep it
that
in
the flu
perspective.
season's been going since October, so that number's going to be a little different than something that just started in December. But relatively speaking, let's put it in
So
perspective.
logically, do the things to protect you from that ought to help.
100%.
Do the 100% doing the same thing.
Because
It's
they're
exact.
contracted the same exact way.
Right.
Your precautions and
So you're-
prevention are going to be the same.
Right.
So, another part of that EOC activation is pushing towards that public information and being a little bit more coordinated in that response, and having we're going to go out to businesses and put out flyers and all of that kind of stuff. So it's.
But I think if you'd agree with me, I'm certainly not a medical professional, but being in contact with someone with coronavirus or even acquiring it is nowhere near a death sentence.
Absolutely not.
As long as you
That's
don't have
the
it,
most important thing that
yeah.
needs to get out.
Yeah.
People feel
Pre-existing.
you catch this and you're dead, and that is not the case
That's not the case.
whatsoever.
They're thinking that so largely so far, the pediatric population has not been affected by this, and some of the school of thought around that is that kids are exposed to different strains of coronavirus all year at school and church and whatever when they're out. So that's, snotty-nosed little kids have probably coronavirus of some form, not COVID-19, but some form of human coronavirus. So their little bodies are already have some little tickers that say,
Antibodies.
"Hey, that's coronavirus," and they squish it like. So they're using some of that to develop vaccine even right now. That's sort of the approach they're taking for that. So.
Yeah.
Good.
I have more comments, but I'll save it till Monday morning. It's really questions is what I have, because I'm as ignorant as...
I mean, if you guys have any questions, just like we've been telling the public, email us, call us, whatever it is.
So let me tell you another plan that we kind of have in place, and we sort of put this out. I think we did put this out last night on
Yeah,
our.
we're gonna solidify it today for sure and, identify some gaps and address those.
Right.
But so far, right now,
So the plan right now is if somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I was in Summit County this weekend skiing, and that guy was next door."
Right.
Okay, cool. Call us. We will have a kit prepared for you. We're going to meet you in your car. We're going to do the test with our proper PPE, personal protective equipment on. We'll test you in your car, and then we're going to ask you to go home and stay self-quarantined.
giving
Until-
guidelines on what that is and
Exactly what that looks like. It's not a homebound self-arrest thing. It's okay.
There's no ankle bracelets.
There's
are
no
there?
ankle bracelet.
bracelets.
Until we get the result, which is about a 24-hour turnaround time at this point, and then we'll go from there. If it's negative, you're off the hook. If it's positive, then we'll go forward with what that quarantine and treatment looks like. So a couple caveats to that. If you cannot drive yourself, if you don't have transportation, but you have a way for us to get a hold of us, I will personally go to your home and do the test
with proper people.
with proper PE, and get it sent off. If you're ill and you need to see a provider, then we have a plan with the clinic or whoever your provider that you want to go to is to get you seen by that provider without having you sit in a waiting room and infect everybody in the waiting room.
Is it a swab?
It's a nasal pharyngeal, so it's just like the flu swab. It's the tiny little wire that goes clear to your brain. Feels like it goes to your brain.
Not really.
No, it really just goes like past your nasal passage, right? And it's a swab. If you're super sick, we'll have you go to the hospital, take you by EMS.
Have those protocols in place.
Those protocols are in place, and they'll do a lower respiratory sputum. So essentially, if you're able to cough up whatever sputum is lower, then they'll test that as well.
Jax, that's not in the paper, a brain probe,
Stick a wire.
not a brain probe.
Right.
Make sure that's clear.
It's a nasal pharyngeal swab.
That sounds painful. I'll just die here.
You know, honestly, little kids that are terrified of it, I will let them do it themselves. And just like make a little mark on the swab of how far it has to go. Put your finger on this and it has to go, because then that way they're not scared. And it's just as effective. I get just the same positive or negative tests. Exactly the same. So it's really not terrible.
Sounds painful.
It's uncomfortable, but it takes 2 seconds, and really little kids can do it themselves if I coach them through it right. So yeah.
So, question, have you had a conversation with Valley Assisted Living?
That's on our agenda today. Yeah. Yeah. So, and essentially it's real easy if I venture to say that, because they're already there. They're, essentially self-quarantined. The biggest thing will be keeping people out of going in there. Yeah. So, and that's the most vulnerable population in our county, because they're have pre-existing conditions, elderly, and
All of the
more
above.
susceptible.
Yeah. So we can go in further detail Monday, and if you guys want to see what a staff EOC activation would look like, we're gonna be in the public health office today, so.
I thought,
Towards the policy group, I will note that, not for the public,
Right.
but towards the
Glad you
policy
guys
group.
are on top of
I'm
this.
hoping you'll demonstrate a nasal pharyngeal swab
I'm Jay.
on Jay, certainly not on myself.
Could you add some brain cells to it?
With an implant.
Transplants.
Add some brains to my brain.
Yeah.
'cause I
So
don't know.
if anybody has any questions, and I'm going to say this on so that it's on the recording, please call Public Health 719-783-3369 or call my personal cell phone 458-9211. I'll be happy to answer your questions. There's a specific screening questions that go through whether or not we're even going to test you, because if you don't meet the criteria for a test, we're not going to do it. Chances are, if you have symptoms, you have run-of-the-mill flu or a regular coronavirus that is the same flu or cold that everybody gets this time of year.
Okay, well, certainly, no question in my mind that your two departments are on top of it, regardless of what you may hear or read or see or anything else, but
Agreed.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right, very good, thank
All
you.
of
Good
your
job.
questions, I'm still not going to shake your hand, but thank
Okay.
you.
Good to have you, and see ya. By consent, gentlemen, can we tolerate about a 3-minute break?
Sure.
Recess. Resume the meeting. Our next staff report is Human Resource Finance. Good morning. Didn't mean to interrupt your conversation.
She wasn't having one. I'm not sure what you've done there.
I couldn't see, I just saw little bits of somebody's hair. How are you?
Good, how about you?
Good. Good, John, doing good.
Man, we're right on the money. It's 10 o'clock and you're here.
I know, who knew, right?
Yeah, who knew?
She's on top of it. That's because Kelly called me. Well, and I think you guys had already okayed that, so that
Yes,
was fine.
we did, yeah.
So,
And don't ask me why I jumped the gun and did
no,
that
it was,
yesterday.
it'll be shorter. I can be out of here in 2 minutes
Because
this
these
time.
would have been included
Yes,
today,
these are.
right?
Yep.
So, sorry. Were they on that list, or
Yes,
these are new?
Those,
These are them.
Those are on
Okay.
here. This is the only new one is here. Yes.
Yeah, that was, I don't know.
Trying to make me be faster, so whew, yay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Took me by surprise. I was writing and I was thinking, what, confused, aren't I? What?
We talked about this yesterday.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. And
You want to keep this?
Sure. Oh, well, actually, I need a initialed one from y'all
Oh, okay.
to put in my little,
I'll start it.
whatever the little thing with holes punched in it is. Those little, the little ledger thing for the auditors.
With the little flippy things.
Yeah.
Boy, that
Yeah.
was a big conversation.
And we know exactly what it is, which is terrifying. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Let's talk about that.
So does someone have to have your power of attorney to put your signature on a check via stamp? While you're doing this, it's just a question that came up to me yesterday and I went,
Like if
We
they
have it.
had a stamp,
well,
would
in
they have
fact,
to
they're
have?
stamping your name onto a legal document, a check. Do you need a power of attorney to do that? That was just a question. Some kind of authorization.
yeah,
The auditors have never said that.
You're authorized to do the process, and the stamp is part of it. That's all. That's your
And I have
authorization.
one new
I
one.
don't think you need it. You're given that power by the.
I mean, I don't
Job.
have an issue, it's just a question that came to me.
But we
That's
do
it.
keep track
It's just
of
a
anything
question.
that is stamped. We have the check number, the fund, the amount, and the date that it was done. If these were gonna be late, if I sent them today, they would have been stamped by Kelly, written down, and then I would have done it, and then they would have been actually approved and then done, but
I'm fine, I just.
well, yeah, and I don't remember if we actually voted as a commission to allow signatures to be stamped on all the,
It was
Probably was
done
when it was
previously.
established. So.
I know we ordered stamps and we do it, so we must have it.
Well, and my overlay that comes from the computer puts Kelly's name on there. I could very well put the chairman of the boards on there as well, but there is a price factor, and if for some reason from every year that if you change chairman, I would have to spend that money to have that signature overlay changed.
But prior to you gentlemen coming on, when I was still around, they hand signed every single check. And we voted to stamp, so I suspect that vote will carry over if that's your concern.
Well, and I think we hand signed the first, the
Yeah, I
vouchers
think-
from the very first meeting after we were seated.
We did. We went through the whole thing.
Yeah, so.
But it's because the stamp wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Okay, that may be why, but it was approved.
Here's a few.
You know, the only time a stamp doesn't work? On your ballot.
On the what?
No.
Your ballot.
Nice.
We've had a couple of those.
Stamp ballots?
Oh,
Do you-
really?
Do you reject those, do you not? Yeah, I thought you meant.
Yeah.
And it was easy to catch.
Yeah, it was. You could really tell.
So I have a question for you, if we can continue unless you have other stuff.
Nope, just, and then,
So we've had a dialogue about public information officer.
okay.
Do we just wave our magic wand and find the money to fund that position? If it went from part-time to full-time, how does that look?
We would just have to make do and figure it out. Perhaps find the best department that it could be housed through.
Or there's been retirements and people, I mean,
Right,
there's
if
probably
it were-
margin left in people's budgets that have personnel.
And, you know, if it's in the, let's say it's in the general fund. And so we've had different people so the overall general fund would not be overspent.
Right.
And so,
Just balancing it
right,
between
it
funds.
would just balance out. You know, a lot of times, you know, what would you do, Kelly, if you had to do with it? Would you just not buy as much paper? You know,
Yeah,
just
you
try to
just
just
figure it
save
out.
what
Yeah.
you can to make it be.
Well, I think part of the discussion has been to
One last one, sorry, I missed one.
try to get that position tied to OEM in some form, because then the MPG grant will pay for, or the MP grant will pay for that portion of that salary.
Plus the overtime, you'd have less overtime, it'd probably balance some of it out.
Well, I would assume that position would be exempt, I don't know.
But it's still
That's what I
part,
mean.
it's still a two area position. It would be IT assistant and OEM. So, I mean, we still need to figure out how to allocate the,
Right. And I think they're working on that, we
Yeah.
have not talked about the money into that deal to this point, so.
Have you been working? Have you
I didn't know anything
Thought
about
about
it, so, but just, probably I would prefer if it was passed through the general fund, not through, the mill levy on the emergency service side, just because that fund is a little,
hard to move?
yeah, you know, it's a little
Very
more restricted and a little
Barely
less.
stays afloat as it is.
Yeah, and so, you know, to leave that one alone,
So what you could do then is transfer money out of that, but it's already been allocated.
and it
into
can't
the-
not from
you
the
can't pull that
emergency
out.
service.
So you
fund,
just
it's
have to pay
restricted.
part of the check.
And
How would you
I
do it?
cannot,
You're gonna
I would have
look
to
at
do
it.
two paychecks.
Yeah.
If I'm paying part
what I
out of
thought.
there, it would be two paychecks. That's why I would prefer, and not that that matters, because one check too doesn't matter, except that that particular person may get in a tax bind when you have two smaller checks. The withholding makes a difference, and they would have to make allowances for that. Not my business, but I hate to have somebody go, really?
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about several different things, the PIO's situation, but we had not talked about the money, so.
On there, but you know, I don't see any reason, especially this early. If this was November or December, trying to come up with that, it would be hard. But now we have plenty of time to readjust the priorities in a particular department to where you could make that happen, I feel.
And then just one other question I know we've talked about in the past. I don't remember the outcome of this. Do you have a record of the propane tanks that we own versus the ones we lease?
Not with me, but yes.
You do have it though?
Yes,
Okay.
somewhere
All right,
that's in there, yes. When Brenda had called to get bids for me to purchase the tanks outright, we have all that
All
information.
right, good. All right, that's all I had. Gentlemen,
It's good. Thanks, Donna.
thank you, appreciate it.
Donna, that woman that was talking to you left a note there for that chair for you, where you're sitting.
Thanks.
Whoops, I hit my mic.
Uh-oh. I wonder what that sounded like.
And thank you again, appreciate it. So the treasurer came over and delivered her report. She is manning her office today since Kara is gone. I'm assuming if you had any burning questions, we could.
No, I move we
Send
accept her
somebody down there.
report as written for now. Discussed.
I'll second it. Moved and seconded to accept the treasurer's report for February. Discussion.
I have to make the question I ask each time because these accounts are not something I live with on a day-to-day basis, so I, of course, trust Virginia. But I always ask her, is there any anomalies in here that need to be brought to our attention when she's not here to answer that? Do we know if there is anything?
I asked her if there was anything we need to be concerned about. She said no.
Okay. Well, speaking of the nicest lady, I almost said she devil, but I would not have said that.
Oh, you smooth devil.
Did Donna go into your office? Yeah. Wondered when I said that, so.
Thank you. The question was, like I ask everyone, because I don't go through this, I don't know everything copacetic and looks proper.
Everything looks good.
Nothing unusual. Okay. I'll call the question.
Oh,
You put a motion out there,
I did, yes. I was still gonna, I had another question, but,
and I will uncall my
okay,
question.
thank you. I appreciate that. So the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District line. Let me make sure I'm on the right line. So on a normal, it's about the 10th line down from the top. And this is just me trying to educate myself a little. So we started at, the month was 7,800, looks like.
And that's what we pay out. We pay the 10th of every month for every one of the entities that we collect for. That's one of them
Right,
that we
and
collect
so
for.
the transfers, that amount, 7,828.
It's actually a check from my office. It's not a
Okay.
transfer. So this month, I'll be paying out $11,381.96.
It's like it's mailed, doesn't it?
And so that happens every month to them, it's not an annual.
Statute, I have to pay it out the 10th of every month.
Okay.
10th.
And then the SOT shows that's just part of that 11,000 and,
They get some of that, yes.
thank you, I appreciate that. Further discussion, gentlemen?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, report has been approved.
On a personal note, I just want to thank you and Susie for your help on a continuous basis.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you coming in.
Now, Meredith has told me we're not supposed to shake
Ah.
hands.
She did not.
Yes,
She said,
did.
just get healthy.
Okay. Okay, I think that concludes staff reports. Ms. Kelly, you have anything? I failed to ask you that from time to time.
Nope.
Things going all right in your world? Okay.
The election's over, so yes.
Got to be better, right?
Thank you for not making us wait 3 days to get the results.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Don't ask for a software package to count votes.
Okay.
just happened to notice in a related article about the elections in the paper, it was interesting to see how the county voted in comparison to the state in the elections. And Kelly and I had this conversation yesterday or the day before about the number of candidates on the Republican presidential ballot. So I was curious to see how many votes were assigned or how many votes those people got. And I think all of them got some except one. There was 0 votes casted in our county for a presidential candidate, but every other candidate had some votes. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it was.
So there were 0 votes, what?
I forget the guy's name.
Oh, for one guy.
For one candidate, nobody in Custer County voted for that person. Anyway,
Yes.
interesting. New business, or unfinished business?
Nothing for me.
Nor do I.
No.
Move on to new business. We'll allow public comment prior to voting on any item that requires such a vote. First item of new business is a DOLA grant report. Would invite one Charles Bogle in all his famousness, by golly. Good morning, sir. You're looking quite
It's like he's
famous
walking
today.
into a,
Yeah.
on a funeral or something.
I was going to say the way the conversation started this morning.
Yeah, it might be.
And since I fall into some of those demographics that are target areas, it's
One doesn't want to take anything for granted. Huh?
that's right.
Well, good morning, sir. How are you?
I haven't been tested, but I don't think I'm a candidate for it. So
Good.
So you're well.
I've been well, yes.
That's right.
Some of the information that we presented before, there is a correction I need
Okay.
to
What
note.
document you want to start
I'm
with?
looking at the notes from our coordination session on
Okay.
2 March.
Okay.
There was an error in paragraph 1. I'm getting help. And there should not be reference. The question was, DOLA asked who would be contracting organization for the grant and supporting contractors, and that will be Custer County. CCEDC, obviously, as it relates elsewhere, is functioning as a staff of the county, but the contracts will be with the county.
Okay. So we take CCEDC off of there?
Yeah, and if
Okay.
you want another copy.
No, that's fine. I'll let you. Okay. Can
And
I
there-
ask you a question real quick?
Certainly.
Was that meeting in here?
No, it was telephonically.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There was an indication, it's noted elsewhere, that there may be a call from some of the DOLA executives to you to coordinate. Apparently, they're not used to seeing an organization like CCEDC functioning as a staff with the county. So, and with a new group in DOLA in the hierarchies. So don't be surprised if you get a phone call confirming that. And they did request that when we get a memorandum of agreement between the county and
CCEDC
that they are provided a copy.
Okay. Can I ask you a question about that?
Certainly.
So this MOU will be for this specific grant?
Yes.
Or for the entire, how the grant relates to the entire project?
I think they'll be separate. This will be for this $90-some-odd thousand.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
because we had the other one already lined out.
Yeah.
Well, we've had, I don't know that we've had anything, we've discussed it, but there's been no paperwork as it relates to the $2 million.
I thought we did because you had proposed a organizational line and we
Yeah, but
rejected that.
I haven't signed off on anything.
Okay.
And I think, you know, one of the previous grants, we had a memo, one of the lesser grants, and in all truthfulness, I can't find a copy of it, but I was just talking to Clint, that'd be a good place to start. Two things that came out that are important. Number one, we do need to get a request for extension, further extension to the award 8635, and here is and I didn't. This was finalized late last night, so and you can take it to water, but it's basically Christy indicated just send her an email.
Yeah, this is good.
And
good
she,
news.
and as it was in, said, tell us the reason why the delay and suggest a delay period with the conditions that DOLA has indicated, like in paragraph 3. They're saying that it'll be 4 to 6 weeks internally before we would see a go ahead on this 86,000. Of course, we've got $10,000 additionally that I've requested to be transferred from COGS. Got it now, but that will put us likely into a deal where, or at least a plan where it'll be nip and tuck as to whether or not we get an authorization, a review and an authorization from EDA prior to the end of the fiscal year. They have given us assurances as much as they can that that, you know, end of the year money would, of course, like they always say, would depend upon other priorities. But so we would expect funding either at the end of this fiscal year or after the next, the other. But that could kick us into a period administratively. Would be lucky if we have a go ahead before the end of the calendar year. So that's why we suggested basically a year extension. And Christy indicated, she said, put what you feel like. She didn't say don't ask for a year, but we figured that would be certainly sufficient. Another thing that we haven't had before is in our discussions with the potential contractors, there is some that have indicated a need for basically startup cost, and we suggested that to both Christy and Greg, and they indicated they would write that in the contract such that it wouldn't be an issue because, you know, typically it's all on a reimbursable basis, but this would be an upfront cost.
Are both of those $1 million grants reimbursable?
Yes.
So we're going to have to come up with that money.
Yeah, and I'm researching, had a little experience with funding that we've got with Round Mountain similarly on even more, and the agency that I know Round Mountain's doing is particular to water and sanitation. Unless you all know some resources, I've talked to Donna as it relates to this 90,000, and we don't see that that's a problem. But when we get into the 2 million,
Meaning what, Charles? Meaning that where's the money?
well, how we have handled it in the past, and don't see a reason why we can't. Generally, we've got a 30-day pay on any of our subcontractor contracts, and what happens is we get an invoice, the county writes a check. For DOLA, we make a copy of the invoice and the check, and we send it to DOLA. We do not release the check. Then we're able to get the reimbursement from DOLA, and then we release the check.
Betting that it'll happen in 30 days.
Yes, and that has been the case in previous experience.
So Are we aware, I mean, we obviously haven't contracted with anyone.
We won't spend
any
any
work.
money before we
Right.
get a go-ahead by
Right.
Dolly, yeah.
And so, are you saying, gentlemen, be prepared in the event this happens, or gentlemen, this is going to happen? This release of funds before any work is done?
There will be no release of, well, other than this startup money.
That's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
the startup money.
That, in the previous discussion we've had the contractors, that has been indicated as a need. We related that to both Christie and them, and they indicated they would put that in the contract for the grant so that it would allow that.
So when would that be effective? When could we do that? Is it 6 weeks away, or is
Well,
it
it's the 4 or 6
Or it's-
weeks, whenever they, and the procedure.
between now and 6 weeks?
Well, they've got to write a statement of work, and that's got to go to Denver and be processed. Then when DOLA gets their side of the contract, they will send it for concurrence here without their signature on it. Then it'll be signed here, sent back, and then they will approve and ultimately give us a release. She's hoping that it will take less than 6 weeks. We all do. But that was best guess right now, 4 to 6 weeks.
And so these 4 tasks yet to be done, I didn't pull them up, I've got them, but are these the contractors we assume may want startup funds?
What was it, one of the two, or did both of them want to start up?
It's the big dollar one, task number 3, which is the preliminary engineering report. That's the one that's high dollar, and they're gonna want some money up front.
Who's the
And who
they?
is that? Yeah, I forget.
It's the same company that did the coordination with the county on the AT&T tower.
Who is that?
Oh, it's,
Strategic site selection.
yeah, SS.
Right.
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
yeah. And my only contact was with that company was through Evan Brooks.
Yeah, well, that's been our primary contact, but they've got other functions that were able to satisfy 3 of the 4 requirements.
So who are they? They part of Centerline? I guess Centerline went bankrupt.
It's their own company.
Yeah. So,
So they will do the engineering. They're also involved in everything except the environmental impact.
So they're going to do the site selection study or
And
whatever.
that's their business.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner.
So, just because I've slept since then, the upfront money, will that be county money hoping on reimbursement, or where will that come from?
Same way that I just mentioned is they will invoice us for that upon authorization. We, in arrangement with Donna, will have a copy of the invoice and a copy of the county check. We'll send those, both items, for DOLA for reimbursement. Once we get that back from the monies, then we'll release the check to the contractor.
So at no time, county monies will be at risk.
It could be.
Yeah.
It
At
could-
this point. Well, that's what I'm
Because
trying
if a
to find out.
snafu happened in that arrangement, then
They
we
lob
would have
into-
to cover the cost of that check.
If DOLA said, we are not going to carry on with this project that we're asking for at this point, to give us the $86,000,
They have
to do the 4 projects to satisfy EDA, I'm on board with that. But if they come back and say, no, we've done enough to this project to this point, you're on your own, go do your thing, are we stuck with that?
After the 98,000's been expended?
Yes.
Or during.
Yeah, but I mean, they're committed to money already. The grant's been awarded.
We've been awarded conditionally
So
on
now it's
getting
just
this
timing
administrative
of the
stuff.
disbursement of those funds. But I think if you're asking what happens after that, is there a potential after we spend that 98,000 to get these 4 studies done?
Either I'm not making it clear or I'm missing the boat. There was a discussion that we might send a check to take care of this one entity who needs to be paid up front. The real question is, are we going to do that without confirmation from DOLA that they will fund that?
No.
And the other
We've
question,
already gotten that
there's a question that's
Well,
related.
No, they're working now, their statement of work, which will include, normally it would say, all funds expended once you've authorized it will be done on a reimbursable basis. They'll put a clause in there that will say that certain upfront costs will be allowed.
Fine. So we would go ahead and pay it. They would send a check back to us, and we'll be covered.
We don't pay it until
We don't
get
pay
the
it until we
check.
get the check.
Thank you. I'm sorry I misunderstood.
Okay, I have a related question because that's a good point. Is how big is the contract? What do they want?
Well, I mean, the total is
No.
60.
Is it 60,000 or is it,
it's
just roughly? I don't care exactly.
Let me
It's
60K. I don't know.
Let me look.
There are 4 contracts. Project 1, which is the 4 letters of intent, is $7,750. It's going to be a non-issue. The second contract is for the fair market value study of living on the 6 towers. That's $3,500. The preliminary engineering report, which is answering 11 questions for the EDA submittal, is $70,300, and that's the one that we're going to be faced with
First.
some startup and mobilization costs.
Okay.
and some incremental payments.
Okay, so that's all right. So 70K. Do we have to write the check for all that, or are we going to write it for the startup costs and then incrementally pay
I
them
would expect the
every
latter.
month, couple, so
Well,
that DOLA
upon
understands that?
We'll put some milestones in it because, I mean, we're looking at 6 sites. So it's easy to
Jason,
put some.
right, that's a good point. So your point is, good, we're on the hook for whatever they write the check for at that time, until, and if it lobs over, and it could, they could have a administrative snafu, and I don't know what an incremental payment could be. It could be 12 grand, or it could be less, could be more. So we'd be on the hook to pay that until we got reimbursed,
If
if it
the
happens.
plan doesn't
Right.
work out of Donna's
That's
office.
Right. I'm fine. I
That's
just
the
want to
question.
know that, and I appreciate the way you're handling it, that we are not putting our neck out on the line for this if DOLA says, I'm done, I'm not going to extend you, I'm not going to give you any more money. I know we
Well,
already have. I
if
already-
you look
I know we
at
already
if
have
you look at
money.
the timeline, the extension obviously is the end of this month.
Correct.
So, and we're not projecting an authorization before 4 to 6. We can't believe that with their authorization that they aren't going to look favorably on an extension.
And not only that, they should stand good for a check even if they decided to cancel it. It's already in the
Get
works.
all this.
But who knows?
But
There's-
still want the
there's
bottom line, don't
That's
you?
right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We can ask them. It seems inconceivable. They'll say no.
Right.
However,
I'll put it this way, in a number of years, it would be a faux pas. We haven't had a problem with
the
that.
risk is so minimal. I should
Yes.
take it off my radar and stop worrying about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think to your point, I mean, typically DOLA has said and says that if you expend any dollars towards your project prior to being awarded a grant,
You're on your
forget
own.
it.
Yeah.
This is going to take care of that.
Well,
This is an exception to that.
We will have an authorization, but the clause, it's generally on a reimbursable basis. So an upfront cost, they haven't, the contractor hasn't spent any money or done any effort yet.
Right.
So that's the exception to the normal
Right.
policy.
Right.
And that the intent is that that will be included in our contract.
Go ahead, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
And we'll know.
Go ahead.
Okay. I hesitate whether to bring this up because I certainly don't intend to be a naysayer. I'm unfair to this project, but it's been going on a really long time. Has any new technology been developed, or is there any changes in the broadband world that would say maybe this project isn't really needed to be done? And that's, I just don't
The
know.
quick
the
answer is
I'm not
no.
trying to say, and you don't have to answer right now.
No,
Just because it's going on so long and we've seen fiber coming into the county.
okay, the fiber that's coming into the county is not broadband fiber.
I get it, but I know that I'm reading about Musk putting low satellite broadband. I'm just reading things. I'm just asking you simply, is this project still a necessity for our county to help with economic development? That's the only way I look at this project.
Quick answer is yes.
Stop. You're done. Thank you.
So can we continue on down through this document, sir?
You bet.
So where are you? What number?
Number 6, believe is kind of where we're at, huh? Because we've talked about startup costs. So I read it several times, tried to get a grasp on what it was actually saying. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, the current grant that the $1 million has a condition on it that we would get matching funds by the 27th of March of this year.
Right.
Formally, we've got to ask for further extension for that, and that's and really when it comes to things that on our end of the situation that we need to do quickly, that needs to be done at least by early part of the week.
So this request a grant extension for the existing $1 million award. I get that. I got a little fuzzy on for half of the amount for Custer County broadband. Does that mean half of the $2 million?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
that's
got
the
it.
way I read it.
Okay, I was thinking half of the $1 million for some reason, and I got kind of sideways. Nope, that answers my question there. Then thank you. I do have a question about 2B. Who's going to write that MOU?
I would assume that that's a cooperation between the two parties.
It's our MOU with you. It's a joint.
Because we have not talked about that. We just said there's going to need to be one. Whether we were going to write it and give it to you, you write it, give it to us.
I talked to Clint. I've got a draft at home that's old. I think we had one previously. We need to resurrect that. I couldn't find a copy of it.
Kelly and I are both going to look for the previous MOU.
So it's an MOU, not a resolution, not a.
It's an MOU between the county and this entity,
private organization,
nonprofit.
I think we probably would have that in place fairly soon.
Yes.
Since we've
done
so much work together, we ought to have some kind of written document in case we all get run over by the train. I almost said coronavirus.
Let's not go there. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I did a search on an MOU with Economic Development Corporation. I didn't come up with anything unless it was for, if we can remember what the specific MOU dealt with, but.
You must have a copy of something, don't you?
Well, I've got a rough draft, but it's not a finalized.
You don't have
copy.
anything signed by the county formalizing anything?
No, and like I say, I only remember that we've done it one time before.
Every MOU I've done, it's saved on my laptop at home, so if I go back there and look, I should be able to
Let me make a comment on that.
Go ahead.
It's my view, and we've said this before this extension came up, that this is a county project. It's county money. And
excuse me,
it's a county project.
You're sponsor of it.
It's a county project, Charles, and the money is the county's money, and we need to be. It's our authority. Our name's on the hook, and we are accountable for it. And if somebody went to jail, the county's going to be online to go with you. That's all. See, so we're not going to turn you loose. The authority still resides here. And anything that has to do with a contract change or those kinds of things, or the amounts of those things, has to be, in my view, looked at and agreed to and coordinated with. There's got to be a process to do that. We are in charge. That's my point. And so now I'm not going to argue about it. That's just it. And the reason I care about that is because the picture's a big picture. We care about the broadband picture strategically in the county. And that includes the fiber program that's coming in as well, because there was a plan that when you introduced this to us, to have a feed to the towers eventually that would be a fiber feed. In initial stages, it's a wireless feed, I understand.
As it relates to fiber feed to the towers, I'll turn that over to
We'll get to that in just a second. But my point is, it's important to dovetail these. That's why I was glad that Carmel started talking with you. I asked him to look into that. And it's important that we don't do anything to spend money that might jeopardize both projects, either way. And the way the program is shaping up on the grants for the fiber program, they have to be not overlapping service areas, because the end mile matters. You guys are getting into the end user. And the fiber program will do that to some extent when we open. It's an open source, so it depends on who uses it and how many addresses they go to. And so it's important that you guys work together, and I know you recognize that in the meeting. Mark Carmel was complimentary on how you and are going to work together. So that's why it matters when we start, how we start, when the money gets spent, whether that's jeopardizing anything or not. We've got to get a clear understanding. So if we agree to do something, and as you know, I'm the representative for all the municipalities and the county here to deal with it. So it's important that we get an understanding, and maybe I don't want to do it here in this meeting. I'm glad to get the ball started, but at some point we're going to need to get together. I hate the word workshop, or it's necessary if all three of us are going to be present to listen that we make that happen. And so those will be some questions that will come up later from me and from Tom and from Jay that we're going to have.
I don't know what Carmel related to y'all as a subject from our discussions this week, but I think the bottom line is that geographically and coverage-wise, there's no conflict between the efforts that he's involved and
that's true, except that this morning he said after looking at some of the stuff you gave him, there may be some overlap in some areas. So I know that'll be resolved. We just want to make sure.
Overlap is not bad.
It can't happen if it's too much overlap, or we don't get the money, the big money for the main fiber, broadband fiber that's coming in. That's all. That's all I wanted to make sure it was clear. And that's why I'm not willing to say, okay, Charles, with an MOU, you guys go off and start it and just check in with us once in a while and tell us how it's going. That's not how it's going to work.
Well,
so we'll work the MOU.
We'll work the MOU. I think we have a reputation of being able to function.
I'm not saying you don't.
Quickly, and sometimes realizing the county can't work as quick, but we'll work the MOU.
Well, and you mean that in a good way, because we're undermanned. We have a small budget and we don't have a lot of staff, and that's why we're hiring somebody to do it.
You're looking at CCEDC,
and that's why we're looking at you.
And have one more individual with you.
Well, Wilson comes in and out, and
he's consulting with you, or whatever he calls it.
Basically, it's Dale and I, and the fact that we've got other things on our CCEDC task list that don't involve broadband that we still feel like we need support. So.
And I got one last question on that. If the project, it was an estimate that the project cost $2 million. If we come in and we can make it cheaper, which we ought to be caring about the taxpayers' money, then that money just never gets dispersed, right? It's easy to move out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because that's a reimbursable grant, then we just never get that money, right?
Let's say it stays in their pot.
They keep the $250,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And so.
And really, if you look at, we will have a total amount of funds of $2 million, almost $100,000. What we should be able to negotiate in the implementation phase, where the four tasks that we've got take much of the risk out of a company that's going to contract it, because that's the positive. That's the positive thing, and that's what EDA is also looking at. Is we're diminishing the risk, because we won't have any environment. We'll know definitely the 6 sites. We'll have we won't have any environmental issues. We'll have a design and a layout. So it ought to be a rather straightforward, a lot simpler, lower risk situation ultimately on the contractors that will do the site preparation, construction, and all
You
that.
bet. So I have one last comment related to what Jay. I'm not going to work details. I want to have another workshop of some kind to talk about the technical details, locations, and all that I see. For example, tower loads. Will they support more than two WISPs or two ISPs or not?
One of the discussions we have had, and obviously needs to be incorporated in any of our discussions once we're authorized, there's a question that, a tower design has certain safety factors on it, and there's a concern that, how much stronger does the tower have to be to accommodate an additional, and some of us think that, that would be so incremental that we can accommodate it within it, but that's
Okay,
to
so
be
the
determined.
reason for that question is I lose sleep. Like, Tom, were you losing sleep the other night? You said. Was it
Last
Jeff?
night,
Yeah. So I lost a little sleep, still do, worrying about how we're going to continue paying for the maintenance on the towers, because the whole point that was made is that we can make money by renting space on the tower. And so if we're going to do that, and we see an opportunity that AT&T might want to hang something on the tower, or somebody else, that has to be, in other words, it's an open source, not a closed source system that we can count on, that we're going to be able to do exactly what you're
One of
proposing.
the four tasks of this current funding determines basically the rates and such that we could expect for revenue.
Okay, good. And then that's why the coordination is good on the tower locations too, as you dovetail the towers together in order to make those things viable for the system, not just the tower project or just the fiber project. So that's all. We'll do that later down the road. I just want to make sure.
One point of
we're looking at-
clarification. In any of our planning, we have not necessarily indicated a necessity or a desire for fiber connections to the towers. So, I mean, just it is evolved to the point where that association's been made, and that's not in our pricing situation right now, because it jumps the price.
Well, not now. I'm talking about later. You said it was going to be a two-step, where later on it would be not just wirelessly fed. It was going to be fed by some fiber that would be put in later at some point down the road. That's always been discussed.
Okay. No argument. We need fiber in this
Right.
community,
So,
because right now.
I'm not saying now.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. Thank you, Jay. I get excited because I want this to be
I just want to
success.
hear what Charles had to say.
Well, we've been working this long, and yes, we have the similar desires, and in our conversations with Carmel and Company, we certainly are supportive of anything that brings more capability to the county. And but so far, we don't see that there's anything that in the discussions we've had in the last couple of days that would interfere between the two efforts.
Good.
So,
and of course the towers haven't been designed yet, so that we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If we say, hey, we want to be able to hang 4 customers or 4 internet providers' equipment on these towers, they would design those appropriately, correct? If we said we want to limit it to 2, then I'm assuming the design would reflect that.
but again, it's a discussion we've had historically with other engineering companies. It comes down to a question of what's the impact for how many. I mean,
That's right. You got to make a trade.
And realizing we've got some pretty stringent requirements. Just anecdotally, we recommend 120 mile an hour winds and 40-pound snow loads. Snow load's not the issue, but we do have strong winds here, and we would expect that they have a safety factor of probably at least 50% and maybe more within the tower technology, and those will be addressed specifically as we proceed.
And that's all we have to do. Make the trades will be made, and the requirements that we have, have to be met.
But I think there is a positive aspect of this interim funding, in that it's going to make it a whole lot easier package for the tower people and to bid it. So,
good.
But the thing that is of a burden on our end of it is to get a letter of extension request to Christie as quick as we can. So,
which I think that's where we need to head.
He's got a
rough draft, and so I would move to authorize Custer County Economic Development Committee to formalize this letter. Corporation, sorry, to formalize this letter and send it to DOLA.
So, all right.
Been moved and seconded to
Clarification on that.
Okay, we'll get to it in just a sec. Been moved and seconded to authorize the Economic Development Corporation to draft a letter to be sent to DOLA for the request and extension discussion.
Okay, that extension request would come from us.
Yeah,
it will.
It needs to come out with
the motion said then have to
just send it. To be sent to DOLA
after it's complete.
The one thing that I think it is in detail, Christie did indicate that everything will be by email, and the fact that the submittal of this, and she clarified it should go to her, as well as the contract when it comes out. Before it was in the U.S. Postal System, we should expect that contract will come to us, be approved, and go back email-wise with them, so that ought to take certain variables out of the process.
Yeah, that will help a bunch.
Did you second the motion?
Yes.
So for clarification, I'll restate the motion because my intent did not come out in my wording. That we authorize the Economic Development Committee to draft a letter on our behalf that we can send via email to DOLA.
Right.
That's better.
That's much better.
You re-second this?
It's my re-second if I
Are
need
you
to.
comfortable with this wording, or do you want to re-wordsmith it?
This was done at the 11th hour last night because internally we realized that we had, this has been going on so long, and our timeline on some of the facts in an earlier draft were not accurate, and so this was done. Dale, did you have a chance to? Is this okay as far as you're concerned?
I sent you my markup back to it, so I haven't read what you've done.
Well,
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
We'll
at it and come
coordinate
back.
that
Yes.
with the intent of
Then if you
before
will-
the day's out. Yeah.
If you will send it back to me, then because Kara's gone today, but if you want to send it back, then we'll make arrangements to get it on letterhead, and then we will forward that on if the motion passes. Further discussion? I would say probably by Monday or Tuesday at the latest, huh?
That's really good. Yes.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion to authorize Economic Development Corp. to finalize a draft to be provided to the county, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate that, Charles, and it's congratulations on, you must have worded, we did, didn't we, to get it right, to get that grant? That's unusual.
Well, DOLA organizationally has been very supportive of our initiatives, and even with the change of hierarchy, there's still an emphasis, and there's a goal that the state's got of having what some of us think is an almost unrealistic goal of broadband coverage by June of this year. So, and Custer County is still related as one of the underserved areas in the state, and so for them to do otherwise would indicate that we aren't doing the right thing on our end, and they aren't doing the right thing on their end. So we were certainly relieved when we were notified, because in talking in coordination with Christy and Greg, they had concern in their mind in the DOLA chain. They didn't have the understanding that the predecessors had, but effectively it worked. So, and like I say, we've noted the little anomalies that we've got on this, and we've got a pretty good timeline. The concern we've got is that with the 4 to 6 weeks that she's talking about, they're internally being able to get us a contract, is that it pushes us very close to the end of the year as far as being able to get EDA approval. Now, from what we understand, EDA doesn't meet formally on a schedule like DOLA or some of the other organizations. They're on a demand basis. So once it's acknowledged that we've completed these tasks, we've updated our grant request to reflect it, then we could get literally we've allocated a month, but we should get an answer out of EDA rather quickly. But again, that's our government, but it for the requested delay that we've got should be more than adequate as far as being able to administer it, and the first $1 million of getting it and locking that in is that we've got matching funds, and so that means an obligation out of EDA in this case. So we should be there.
Yeah, I was encouraged by the fact that this 86,000, right?
Plus.
We had this other 10,000. I keep calling it 98,000.
Well, total tax.
Was a non-matching grant, which I just felt like was another stamp of approval.
We did
on what we're
make
trying
a
to do.
partial match, which probably didn't hurt. But we've got it regardless.
What do you mean a partial match?
Well, I had $10,000 from
Right.
Elpamar
Yeah.
that we included in it. So
Yeah.
That's right.
You had questions, sir?
Just a comment. I mean, I know sometimes the way I ask questions, it seems like I'm not in favor.
no,
of
you're
this.
a lawyer.
Oh,
I mean, I understand
I
that.
was going to thank them for their tenacity.
He just insulted you.
No, it's a matter of understanding.
I was going to tell you thank you for not giving up on this project and sticking it out however long it is, but I'm not going to say that.
well, surely he wouldn't take an offense to a statement that you just clarified or reminded us of his career, right? I mean, that's not a...
I mean, that would be like
You
if
would
I
take
ask a
offense to
question
that.
or if I make a comment that I sound like an engineer. I'd say I'm a recovering
It
engineer.
would be like you still beat your wife, is the way that came out.
Well, we appreciate it.
Well, I have to get up and sit down again.
I appreciate what you're doing and your continued tenacity doing it.
So let's move on then to the next agenda item is the strategic planning follow-up. We had asked you to meet with your folks and give us your opinion on whether or not you might want to be involved in the strategic planning. The name just gets away from me.
That's understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Implementation plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've basically given you an initial position. We gave you most recently an adjusted position that reflects where we are calendar year-wise and stuff like that. We did look at considerable length at not only this particular task, but the fact that our commitment as it relates to broadband and other things that we're doing within the community. And the bottom line is we're kind of reinforcing and sticking with the last offer that we made, is that we feel that with everything we've got and our limited capabilities, resources as far as people goes and expertise, that we would still recommend hiring Cheryl, and we will facilitate the local coordination with any meetings and polls and such like that, but it would still involve a contracted amount with S-Brand in the amount of $7,500.
All right. Thank you for that.
And that was her estimate, right?
Yeah, it was basically, if you remember, her original estimate was $10,000. That covered basically 4 quarters of the year.
And that was for 3 that remained.
That was ramping up and getting things for the balance of this calendar year, fiscal year.
Okay, perfect. All right, sir, thank you for reporting back to us on that. We appreciate it. All right, thanks.
Very much. Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Thank you. And we'll get together then.
Yeah, I'll find that one and send it to you.
Okay.
Or Kelly will find it and send it to me and I'll send it to you.
Okay, our next item of business, consideration of an addendum to Resolution 20-02. As you recall, gentlemen, from yesterday, we talked about attaching another document onto that resolution. Council recommended that be a formal
Exhibit A.
action. So,
We have an Exhibit A already on that resolution.
yeah, that was the list of the roads that we do maintain, so this would become
Okay, so it'd be Exhibit B. This is A here.
So I will ask you this, in my opinion, I think a motion to attach Exhibit B to that resolution would be sufficient, but if you think we need to do something different than that, let's have that conversation.
I don't. The resolution as it now, I gotta find it, but I think the last line of that already references that all other roads in the subdivision that are not expressly listed on Exhibit A are not being accepted.
Or you could say see Exhibit B now.
So, well, we can just say and add to that, see Exhibit B of a list of those roads.
Good.
It doesn't have to be anything fancier than that, I don't think.
So you're thinking that, sorry sir, let me just, no, it's okay. You're thinking we do need to change the wording in this resolution?
I don't really think it's that necessary to do that. We have the list, and I mean, I think it's crystal clear the way it's written. So to add another list saying we're not accepting these roads,
Right. I just wondered if we did change the words on number 2 to just say that all other roads exist in the Corona Verde subdivision that are not expressly listed on Exhibit A, see Exhibit B, then it's on there. Go ahead, sir.
If I may, sir. I think that's beyond the scope. Yesterday when we discussed it, I didn't have this in front of me, so I didn't read it. But when I reread, I said, I don't really see reason to put an Exhibit B on here. I think item number 2 is very clear that if you are not on A, you're not included. It concerns me about putting a list of B. What if next year or next month someone cuts a new road through there to put some new houses in and we don't put it on the list? That's the kind of issues I'm concerned about for the future. So I'm wondering, and I think Council just mentioned it, whether we should even include an Exhibit B.
You know, I'll tag on to that then. I agree that list of unincorporated roads should reside with that subdivision because it's not our responsibility. If they want to have a road that's not currently maintained, come to us and ask.
Exactly. So I'm not sure. I don't see the necessity to put these are the ones we're not going to cover when number 2 explicitly says everything in A is covered, everything else is not.
Listed, it isn't.
And it seems sufficient to me, but I'll just stop there for the moment, I may say.
Your point's well taken. I think the spirit behind this was to articulate which roads were not maintained so that there was no question about that. But it may be a duplicative effort. So if a motion is forthcoming, we'll deal with it. If it's not, then we will not take action.
Okay.
Because we certainly won't entertain a negative motion, I can tell you that.
What the other night at West
Negative motion.
Negative motion, and I said, time out, guys, do you really want to do that? And they did, and they passed a negative motion. I've never had one in my career to that point.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I think it's covered.
I just threw that out.
So if there is no action forthcoming then on consideration of an addendum, we will move on.
What we could do just as an unofficial thing, just hand them the list we got. Form,
Gary can give that to him.
Yeah, Gary can do that. And then I don't think it's up to Gary to maintain a list of roads.
I understand what you were saying, basically the same thing we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see the necessity of putting an addendum on or amending it or making any changes to what we already have on the resolution.
Saves Kelly a stamp.
So I would suggest Kelly, and you certainly can however you want, just identify no action was taken. Yes, sir.
Would it be more appropriate for you to ask for a motion and then there wouldn't be one, and that way we know that there was? That we intentionally chose not to move forward? It's just a question. You run the meeting, not me. It's just a thought.
I think he sort of did already.
Yeah, I kind of asked. Seeing no formal motion, then we will take no action.
If it's already in the record.
I'll put that there was a non-motion, how's that?
No action taken is all you gotta say. And you don't bring it with a non-action.
Okay.
A negative action.
I move that we don't act.
We'll move on to consideration of the Justice Center RFP. Should have said technically the Justice Center cover letter and RFP, but I think we all understood that. So I believe you were provided with a copy of both. Let's talk specifically about the cover letter, because I think the other document we had agreed was sufficient.
So
Commissioner Kander reached out with a couple of typo errors. We fixed those yesterday. Kara was here till almost 5 o'clock trying to get this done because she knew she wouldn't be here today. So
Appreciate her doing that.
just for your information, this is in a PDF file. We do not have the ability to change anything. So if we want to change something then it can occur on Monday, which would still give us adequate time to submit them to the papers. But I would move that we approve the RFP cover letter and the RFP itself for the Justice Center.
I'll second that.
You still have that motion.
Oh, we had
on
that
the
motion.
floor.
You're right. That's exactly right.
So we
Let me
just
give that
vote.
thought. We moved to postpone this item of business until today. That's exactly right. So,
Because I asked about that motion. Does
right.
that just carry over?
yes.
Yeah, you did.
You're right.
There is another typo in this letter.
Oh, no, there is.
Okay.
The T for Tom at custercountygov.com should be lowercase.
It is.
It's not on mine.
And I asked her to correct that late, and I thought I sent that to you.
It's fine. If it's corrected, I'm good.
Yes.
And even if it's wrong, I don't think it matters. Vern, does it matter on an address, capitalization on it?
On a-
Does not,
no.
right?
Email?
Not on the email.
Right,
Email or domain.
right.
I don't.
But I asked her to take that back to lowercase, and she did, and I thought I sent that, but
Yeah,
it
now
was
you could
late,
correct
so
it.
maybe I didn't. Yeah, and Bill's, his hard copy's capped as well.
Yeah,
Computer might have recorrected.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it's
yeah.
So,
I have a hard time with that.
yeah, this item of business was
Cancel
postponed
the
until
ones and
today. We will
ignore it.
take action on this. Further discussion now. May I see your copy? And then I'll take your question here real quick. Okay. On this letter, it looks like the 1 on 719 is an exclamation
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
But
it's got it.
it appears to be on yours that it's
Not.
a 1. Actually, I've got the hard copy, so let me just look.
It's a 1.
I don't have an explanation on mine.
It might be your screen too.
Well, it was probably the scan.
It does kind of look like.
Yeah, it does on the hard copy as well, but I think they will understand.
Oh, it's got
that's
a, it's
one.
got a,
Little break through the bottom of it. Yes, sir. Mr. Vern, you had a question or comment?
If I can edit PDFs on my computer, if you need me to do something.
Do you have a copy of this pulled up? Okay. I think we're okay. Let me show
I
that
think
to
it's
Jay.
I can actually.
it's a
edit
cover
it on
letter.
this
You
computer right here.
can read
Right.
it, so it's okay.
Did you need something edited? I can edit something on this computer right here and convert it back into a PDF.
And we can do that after the fact.
Right.
I'm fine. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay.
So, further discussion on the motion, which was to approve the cover letter and the RFP for the Justice Center from yesterday. Just that if this motion passes, we will sign these today, and I will send these at least to the 3 newspapers
In the website.
today, and we can ask Vern to post it on the website, and then Kara can send these out to potential vendors. Now, we've got 3 potential vendors. I have addresses for 2 of those. I have yet to get the address for Stiefel,
Did,
but that will be on the...
was Ann and the committee going off to look for that? How did we leave it
No.
with that? We're gonna give them something.
Bob Johnson provided 1, and Shannon Byerly provided 1. And then Bob Johnson provided the name the name of another.
And Stiefel won't come up on the Google.
Well, you can Google it, but it's a pretty complex wealth management company. So there's 100 departments, so we got to make sure. I'm going to get a hold of Johnson and find out
You can
if
flood
we
them.
can clarify what department that would go in. And so I had a couple thoughts about that. I wanted to just run by you. I think probably it makes sense to put these in the local papers. Certainly I don't anticipate any response because we don't have any of these companies here. However, I think the value of that is it gets it in the public eye.
It's absolutely
Sure.
appropriate for us to put
Gotta
it
do
out
it.
to the public.
So I just think it's becomes a cog in the wheel of promoting and moving forward, don't you?
Yeah,
Must
absolutely.
do.
And so let me pull that document up real quick.
You gonna send one to Bob too?
Bob Johnson?
Yeah.
Let her.
You can
Yeah,
send it
if we
out.
could.
He wrote it.
They may turn around and say, hey, I thought of someone else.
Yeah.
Let me give me just a second here. Well, that's not it.
What you looking for?
The names and addresses of those individuals, that has changed. You know, when we met with Johnson, we talked about Alan Matlos working for a company. He's not with that company now.
Right. He said that, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Johnson said that.
He is now,
Didn't he go to Stiefel?
he went to Stiefel, yes. And another guy took Matlos'
Right.
place, and I think his name is, that's what I was going to look for, was Eric. I created that document yesterday. I don't know why I can't find it today. That's weird.
You on Word?
Yeah, that's
pull
what
up
I was
Word
trying to
for
do
the
a search.
last one
That's
that's
what I've been
there.
doing here, but
It won't pull up Word. There you go. There you go.
that's what I've been looking for, and
It's
I can't
not
find
there?
it.
Hmm.
There, RFP contacts. So Nate Eckloff is now with Piper Sandler, and Michael Paraschetti is with RBC, and Alan Matloss is with Stiefel. But I don't think I have a good address. I got lots of addresses for Stiefel, but I don't think we have a good address. So I'll work on that
I'm sure they
Monday.
have a phone number. They can tell us, here's the address
Yeah.
of this gentleman. I mean, it's not that
So,
big a deal.
Okay.
So the plan is to send out 3 initially,
And if we get any more,
and the website, and then the 3 papers, and we'll go from there.
I think it's fine.
And
Do you want
the
to publish in any other papers? I mean, like Pueblo or Colorado Springs or anything, or just the local paper and then mail out? Because these are the experts, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of going off of
I think the
Bob Johnson's recommendation. If we hit these 3, we'd probably hit the 3 heavy hitters in Colorado.
the other
Again,
value would be Springs. They cover a bigger contractor base. You could do that. I don't think it costs that much.
Are you volunteering to take on that responsibility,
Sure.
Commissioner Kanda?
I'll see who it is. I'll just
okay.
get a copy of it and I'll look for an address.
Further discussion? For sure, right now, though, you're okay with
Do the 3, let's go.
newspapers?
I am fine with
And,
this. Let's get on with it.
Okay. Because we're going to do that either today or Monday.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The RFP cover letter and document has been approved and will be sent out.
Tom, I looked at your previous cover letter and it's definitely a 1, not an exclamation, so I don't think,
It's just a printer.
yeah, I think it's just the way it printed out.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen scanned documents a little higher quality than what we seem to come up with here at the county. I don't know why that is, but I don't know if you've noticed, now we have all the same color paper, whether it's,
Commissioners are cheapskates. That's why we have a problem.
well,
Need some new printers.
yeah, I don't know what that is. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. You?
I'm well, thank you. And then I don't think, we didn't have a signature line on the actual,
No.
I remember one.
no, thank you. All right, well, I'll work on these today, and Kara said she will finish them up on Monday to whoever. I just wanted to be very clear about that because Commissioner Kanda indicated, and respectfully so, and I appreciated that we probably need to be a little more transparent about what we're doing individually and on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. You said it, it's haunted me ever since then. I don't believe it. Yeah, you, the guy sitting right here, that a lot of the work being done would be normally done if we had a county administrator. We don't. So this would be a perfect example. This would be a county administration and his administrative assistant's job, but
I move that we hire one.
whew, be careful what you ask for. You may have to fund it. Okay, any further agenda items, gentlemen, that I'm not aware of? Take that as a no. Any public comment? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Public comment. He's sitting here for a reason.
I wondered, but he indicated no.
He and I are gonna go have
Custer
lunch.
County excellence. You just came to visit? How wonderful. I have
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries.